Hello, everyone. Welcome back to End Times Ambience. If you want to skip this brief introduction, check the comment below for the timestamp. And if you haven't done so already and you enjoy the content, please subscribe to the channel. Also, if you would like ad-free versions of all of the broadcasts, please consider joining us over on Patreon. You can get access there for as little as $5 a month. This is another backlog video, and I'm excited to bring it to YouTube. It's actually been up on Patreon for a little over a month now, and it covers one of my favorite video game series, Half-Life. This video will take you through the original Black Mesa Incident and the Resonance Cascade, through the portal storms, all the way through the 7-hour war and the immediate aftermath of it. So I had a lot of fun with this one, so I really hope you enjoy it. And with all that being said, End Times Ambience proudly presents Echoes of the Cascade, a Half-Life story. Enjoy the show.
Good evening. I do hope you're sitting comfortably. What you are about to hear is a story about the end of the world. I realize that sounds dramatic. It was. Terribly inconvenient, too. One moment, everyone was going about their business, paying taxes, complaining about the weather, and the next, well, the weather became the least of their concerns. This production is based on the video games Half-Life and Half-Life 2, created by Valve. If you haven't played them, I strongly suggest you head over to Steam and purchase them at once. They are magnificent. If you have played them, you already know how this ends, and I'm afraid that won't make it any easier to listen to. The voices in this production were generated by artificial intelligence. The story itself, however, was produced and directed by a human being. I'm told the distinction still matters, though I suspect not for much longer. Any resemblance to persons living or dead is entirely coincidental, though by the time we are finished here, the ratio between those two categories will have shifted rather considerably. Do sit back, pour yourself something warm, and try not to think too hard about the skies outside your window. Enjoy the show.
I take it you are listening. Good. I do appreciate an attentive audience, even one that does not yet understand the scope of what it is about to hear. Arrangements have been made. The sample has been delivered. The facility is prepared. The personnel are at their stations and the equipment is calibrated to specifications that are not entirely their own. What follows is a consequence, a series of events unfolding in the necessary order. I would not describe it as inevitable. That word implies a lack of authorship. And I can assure you, every variable has been accounted for. There is an asset inside the facility. He does not know what he is yet. He will learn. They always do, the good ones. When the time comes, he will do what needs to be done, not because he is brave, but because no other option will present itself. My employers have authorized a certain amount of collateral disruption. I understand that may seem cold, but the interests I represent operate on a scale that makes the concerns of one species on one planet rather difficult to prioritize. So listen carefully. What you are about to hear already happened, or is happening now. The distinction is not as meaningful as you might think. Time is a local condition, and I have never been particularly local. Let's begin.
Good evening. I'm Gordon Vance. We begin tonight with a look at a minor geological advisory out of central New Mexico. The State Geological Survey has flagged an unusual cluster of low-level seismic readings in Bernalillo County over the past 48 hours. Local seismologists are describing the activity as consistent with deep aquifer pressure shifts and say the readings pose no danger to structures or residents in the area. It's worth noting that Bernalillo County sits above one of the deepest water tables in the southwest, and minor seismic activity in the region is not unusual during the dry season. We will keep an eye on it. On the roads tonight, Piper Valentine has been tracking some unusual traffic patterns out near the desert corridor in southern New Mexico. Piper, what are you seeing?
Gordon, I'm out on Route 375 tonight, about 40 miles south of the high desert plateau. Traffic's been diverted twice in the last 3 hours for what the Highway Patrol is calling scheduled federal equipment movement. There's a military convoy heading northwest, big one. I'd say 30 vehicles at least, flatbed transports under tarps, covered cargo haulers, and a line of Humvees running escort front and back. We asked the Highway Patrol about the closures, and they said routine equipment transfer, nothing to report. Could be. Fort Bliss runs convoys through here a few times a year, but this is more hardware than I've seen on this road, and they're moving at night, which is a little unusual for a routine transfer.
Piper Valentine for us tonight on Route 375. Thank you, Piper. And before we let you go this evening, your forecast. If you're anywhere in the southwest this week, you are in for a treat. Clear skies from Albuquerque to Flagstaff, highs in the mid-80s, low humidity, and not a single cloud on the radar through Friday. Just about as perfect as it gets out there. That's our broadcast for tonight. I'm Gordon Vance. Good night. Good morning. I'm Gordon Vance, and we are interrupting regular programming to bring you a developing story out of central New Mexico. At approximately 9 a.m. Mountain Time this morning, seismic monitoring stations across 3 states recorded a massive shockwave centered in the high desert region of Bernalillo County. Sensors in New Mexico, Colorado, and Arizona all registered the event simultaneously. The event does not match any known geological pattern. It is not consistent with an earthquake, a mine collapse, or any conventional industrial failure. All radio and telephone communications from within a 50-mile radius of the epicenter have gone completely dark. We have no contact with anyone inside the affected area. We're going now to Piper Valentine, who has been at the nearest accessible highway checkpoint on Route 375 since early this morning. Piper, what are you seeing out there?
Gordon, I'm about 12 miles south of where the road is blocked. They've put up concrete barriers across both lanes. Armed personnel, full combat gear, helmets, body armor. These are not highway patrol officers. These are soldiers. I can see V-22 Osprey transport aircraft coming in from the southeast, low altitude, fast in formation. I've counted 5 in the last 20 minutes. Gordon, these are not rescue aircraft. These are the same kind of military assault transports I saw in the convoy last night. Whatever is happening past this checkpoint, they're sending in a lot of people and a lot of equipment. We tried to get a statement from the checkpoint commander. He wouldn't look at the camera. When I identified myself as press, we were told to clear the area immediately or face detention under emergency federal authority. That was the word he used. Detention for asking a question on a public road.
Piper, is there any civilian traffic being allowed through? Any ambulances, any medical vehicles heading toward the site?
No. Nothing civilian is going in. I haven't seen a single ambulance or EMS unit pass through this checkpoint since I arrived. Military vehicles only, and they're all going in, Gordon. Nothing is coming out.
Piper, thank you. Stay safe out there. We do have an official statement from the federal government. For that, we go to Adam Denton, speaking on behalf of the Office of Federal Communications.
At approximately 0900 hours this morning, a contained industrial pressurization failure occurred at a classified research installation in central New Mexico. The situation is under control. Federal emergency response teams are on site and conducting operations. There is no risk to surrounding communities at this time. We ask that the public avoid the restricted area and allow federal personnel to complete their work without interference. Media access to the site is not available at this time for safety reasons. That is all we have.
Adam Denton from the Office of Federal Communications. We're joined now by Dr. Yennefer Marigold, a theoretical physicist who specializes in high-energy particle research. She has been monitoring the electromagnetic data coming out of the region since the event this morning. Dr. Marigold, what can you tell us about what instruments recorded?
Thank you, Gordon. What I can tell you is that the electromagnetic signature recorded by monitoring stations at 3 separate universities does not correspond to any known industrial accident. An industrial pressurization failure produces heat, concussive force, and a predictable radiation pattern. What the instruments recorded this morning is something else entirely. The electromagnetic pulse was instantaneous across all 3 monitoring sites. The energy profile resembles a particle physics discharge event, not a mechanical failure. The scale of it is, and I'm being very careful with this, the scale is beyond anything a conventional research facility should be capable of producing. Whatever happened this morning looks like someone was running a high-energy physics experiment and something went very...
I'm sorry. Dr. Marigold, I'm being told we need to move on. My apologies. We will continue to follow this developing story out of central New Mexico. To recap what we know at this hour, at 9 a.m. this morning, a massive seismic and electromagnetic event struck the desert region of Bernalillo County. Federal authorities are describing it as a contained industrial incident at a classified research installation. Military forces are deployed in large numbers. No civilian or medical traffic is being allowed into the site. I'm Gordon Vance. We'll be back.
Here's what matters right now. At 9 o'clock this morning, a facility called Black Mesa blew a hole in the ground the size of a county. You won't hear that name on the news. Not yet. I've had it for 3 years. FOIA requests, procurement filings, redacted to nothing but the headers. But the headers are enough. Black Mesa Research Facility, New Mexico Desert, subterranean, funded by Department of Defense contracts going back to 1954. This is not a refinery. This is not some natural gas storage depot that popped a valve. What's sitting under that desert is a weapons research complex built on top of decommissioned ICBM silos from the Cold War, miles of tunnels, their own monorail transit, their own hydroelectric dam, their own ventilation, water treatment, biological waste plants, a city underground, and nobody in the press has ever asked a single question about it. I've got budget line items showing they were drawing more electricity than Albuquerque, and not a single public utility record accounts for it. Because it's all internal. They generate their own power. They process their own waste. They even had their own private security force running the perimeter. This is a self-contained operation designed from the ground up so that nothing about what they do ever has to go through a public channel. You could work there your whole career and your family wouldn't know what building you were in. And they weren't alone in the race. There's a second outfit called Aperture Science, founded by a shower curtain salesman in Michigan who bought an old salt mine and started running physics experiments in it, both companies chasing the same prize for decades. Teleportation, displacement field technology. Black Mesa won every funding cycle, ranked ahead of Aperture on every federal applied science list since the late 40s. And that kind of winning makes people cut corners they shouldn't cut, especially when the other guy is catching up. Now, you saw the convoy footage Piper Valentine filed last night. 30 vehicles heading into the desert on a closed federal highway. That was staging. That was not a response to what happened this morning. That was already moving before the event. Write that down. The military was deploying before the explosion. Someone inside that facility, or someone above it, knew what was about to happen and set the clock. Those V-22 Ospreys Valentine saw today, that's not FEMA. That's not National Guard running search and rescue. Ospreys in that formation belong to a Hazardous Environment Combat Unit, HECU, Marine Corps, based out of the Santiago Military Base in Arizona. They train for chemical, biological, and radiological threats. But here's what containment looks like when it comes from that unit. It means nobody leaves the perimeter. not the contamination, not the survivors, nobody. There are people in that facility right now, scientists, engineers, cafeteria workers, security officers, pulling $8 an hour shifts, and the federal government didn't send medics. They sent a combat unit whose entire doctrine is built around making sure nothing and no one gets out. The physicist they cut off on the news today, Dr. Marigold, she started to say particle physics discharged before someone killed her feed. She's right. Whatever happened at 9 a.m. was not a boiler accident. It was a high-energy physics experiment pushed past every safety margin the equipment had, and someone authorized it. Someone signed the work order that morning knowing the machine was being run beyond its rated ceiling. I don't have the name yet. I will. What I have right now are regulatory filings from 3 years ago, safety complaints. Someone inside that facility flagged the thresholds on their primary testing equipment and sent it up the chain. It went nowhere. Whoever runs Black Mesa sat on those complaints, kept the contracts coming, kept the DOD happy, and this morning the math caught up. Here's what you do in the next 12 hours. Fill every container you own with water. Cash on hand, not cards, battery-powered radio. If you're within 200 miles of the New Mexico border, you start thinking about where you'd go if they told you to leave tonight. I'm putting every document I have on the site, every filing, every redacted page. Download it before they take it down. The question is not what happened in that desert. The question is why they had troops on the road before it did.
Good evening. I'm Gordon Vance. We continue tonight with developing coverage of the New Mexico event, now entering its second day. Federal authorities are maintaining a full press blackout across the affected region. But in the last 6 hours, survivors from the outer perimeter of the facility have begun arriving at hospitals in Albuquerque and Santa Fe. Their accounts are fragmented and, in many cases, difficult to reconcile with what we currently understand about the situation. We go now to Piper Valentine, stationed outside Albuquerque General Hospital since this afternoon. Piper, what have you been seeing?
Gordon, I've been out here about 4 hours now. 3 ambulances arrived in the first hour. Since then, it's been private vehicles, people who drove themselves out, some of them still wearing lab coats. Most of them are being treated for burns, radiation exposure, blunt trauma. But it's the psychological state that's getting the attention of the medical staff. One of the ER doctors told me that he's never seen this pattern of distress. He said these people aren't behaving like explosion survivors. They're behaving like combat veterans. I spoke with two of them before federal agents arrived and shut down access to the intake ward. Both described the same thing. After the initial shockwave, things started appearing inside the building. Not debris, not gas. They said creatures. One man described something small and fast that attached to a coworker's head. He used the word crab. He said they were dropping from the ceilings and out of the ventilation ducts. The second woman described something different, something large, amphibious, in the lower canal levels of the facility. She said it had been living in the water. She didn't want to describe what it looked like. She just kept saying it was angry. I also have cell phone footage from a third survivor. It's shaky, almost completely dark, but it shows what appears to be the surface freight yard of the facility. There's something moving between the buildings. It's tall, Gordon, taller than the loading bay doors. It's walking upright. Our legal team is reviewing whether we can air the video.
Piper, the medical intake reports from these survivors, have the hospitals released anything official?
No, all intake records have been classified. Federal agents arrived within an hour of the first ambulance. The nursing staff told me they've been ordered to treat all patient information from this incident as classified material. Gordon, I've covered chemical spills. I've covered refinery fires. They don't send intelligence officers to an emergency room for an industrial accident.
Piper Valentine outside Albuquerque General tonight. For more on the military response, we're joined now by Captain Arcturus Horner, retired Marine, former tactical operations. Captain, what does this deployment tell you?
The Osprey formations your reporter identified yesterday are consistent with a single deployment type, Hazardous Environment Combat Unit, HECU. That's a specialized Marine branch trained for operating in contaminated, hot, or biologically compromised environments. They deployed from the Santiago military base in Arizona. That tells me this was a standing contingency plan, not a scramble. What concerns me is the equipment profile. Your reporter mentioned Bradley's and Abrams tanks in last night's convoy. You don't bring armor to pull survivors out of a collapsed building. You bring armor when you expect to engage something inside it. The facility adjacent to that desert corridor is almost certainly Black Mesa, and the scale of this response tells me they expected what happened, or something close to it.
Captain, when you say they expected it, what does that mean for the people still inside?
It means the mission profile is not rescue. That's all I'm comfortable saying on the air.
Captain Arcturus Horner, thank you. I need to share something with our audience at this time. I've been handed a written notice from our network's legal counsel. It reads as follows. This story is now subject to national security review. Further reporting on the classified installation referenced in this broadcast may constitute a federal offense under the Espionage Act, 1917. I want to read that last part again. Further reporting may constitute a federal offense. Survivors are arriving at hospitals describing creatures inside a government research facility. The military deployment isn't a rescue operation, and we've just been told to stop talking about it. We'll be back after this.
I put out an episode on displacement field research 14 months ago, 42 downloads. I got 3 emails, 2 of them telling me I was out of my mind. I'm not going to say I told you so. What I'm going to say is that I have a guest tonight who knows more about what happened in New Mexico than anyone who's been on a television screen in the last 2 days. His name is Corvo Caldwin, theoretical physicist. He worked in particle displacement research at a university lab adjacent to Los Alamos. 3 years ago, he filed safety objections with 2 federal regulatory agencies about a specific piece of equipment at a specific facility. Those objections went nowhere. Corvo, thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me. I want to say up front that there are things I've seen in classified research settings that I can't discuss directly, but I can talk about the physics. The physics are public. Anyone with a graduate degree in particle theory can follow what I'm about to describe.
Before we get into the physics, I want to ask something. You could have gone to a news network with this. Why my show?
Because the news networks are being told to stop covering the story. You saw the gag notice tonight. And because I listened to your episode on displacement field theory, you got most of it right, which surprised me.
Yeah, I know I got it right. That's why nobody listened. Start wherever you need to.
There's a piece of equipment called an anti-mass spectrometer. Most people have heard of a mass spectrometer. It measures the mass of particles. An anti-mass spectrometer does something different. It bombards a test sample with focused energy until the mass properties of that sample begin to behave in ways that don't follow standard physics. The particles begin interacting with adjacent dimensional states, spaces that exist alongside our own. Think of it this way. You live in a house. On the other side of every wall, there's another room you can't see.
And the spectrometer thins the wall.
At low energy levels, yes. You get readings, anomalous signatures. The equipment we used in our lab could produce those at about 65% beam intensity. Interesting data, publishable results, controllable.
And the manufacturer rates the equipment to 90%.
90% is the ceiling. Above that, the dimensional barrier, interaction stops being an observation and starts being a physical event. You're not reading the wall anymore. You're pushing on it.
And you filed a complaint about someone running it at 105.
I had access to internal calibration data from a facility I'm not going to name. The data showed repeated test runs at 105% beam intensity, 15 points above the rated ceiling. I filed a regulatory objection with 2 federal agencies. I stated in the filing that at those levels, the barrier interaction would not be controlled. It would be a rupture.
Did they give you the version where it was outside their jurisdiction?
Yeah, that's exactly what they said. The operating conditions of a classified facility were outside the jurisdiction of the agencies I filed with, which means someone above those agencies approved the test conditions, someone with the authority to override 2 separate federal safety reviews.
The facility administrator.
I'm not going to name anyone tonight, but yes, that authority sits with whoever ran the facility.
I'm not surprised. I documented the procurement structure of that facility's contracts 2 years ago. Every safety review routed through one office, one desk, one signature, and they had competition breathing down their neck. Aperture Science. Different approach, same goal. Portal technology. Black Mesa had the federal contracts locked down for decades, but Aperture was making progress on their own displacement hardware. I documented that rivalry.
The pressure to produce results was institutional. Black Mesa had been the top-ranked applied science contractor since the late 40s. Their entire funding model depended on staying ahead. You push the equipment harder, you run the tests faster, you bring in a sample you haven't fully analyzed because the timeline doesn't allow for full analysis. And then the morning comes when the math catches up.
Okay, so the spectrometer runs at 105, the sample goes into the beam. What happens at the point of rupture?
The models call it a resonance cascade. The initial breach creates a feedback loop. The tear in the dimensional barrier amplifies its own energy, and the barrier continues to degrade around the point of contact. In practical terms, matter from the adjacent dimension begins crossing into ours, not in a controlled way, violently, in bursts.
The creatures. The survivors are describing creatures appearing inside the building.
We call the adjacent space a border world. It's the term in the literature. A region that exists between dimensional states. It has its own physics, its own, environmental conditions. Whether anything lived there was debated for a long time in the theoretical community. Given what the survivors are describing, I think we can consider that question answered.
One of the survivors describes something small attaching to a co-worker's head. Another describes something large and amphibious in the lower levels. Those aren't the same species.
No. And that's the part that concerns me most. If you're pulling material through a dimensional breach, you're not selecting what comes through. You're getting whatever is near the rupture point on the other side. If there are multiple species, that means the border world has an ecosystem. Predators, prey, parasites. A full ecology that's been developing under completely different physical conditions than anything on Earth.
And they're adapted to survive in their environment, which means they're tough.
They're adapted to survive in conditions we don't understand. How they'll behave here, what they eat, how fast they reproduce, whether our atmosphere is hostile or comfortable to them, none of that is predictable. We have no reference data.
The cell phone footage from the freight yard showed something tall, walking upright, bigger than a loading dock. That's not wildlife, Corvo. Something that size, moving between buildings.
I know. The theoretical work on border world ecology assumed microbial life, maybe small fauna. What the footage shows is, I don't have a full understanding for it. Nobody does.
The military has the facility surrounded, armor, combat marines. If these things are coming through a breach inside the building, can the military contain them there?
You're asking whether conventional weapons work against organisms whose biology we have zero data on. I can't answer that. What I can tell you is that the breach itself is not something you can shoot. You can kill every creature that comes through and more will follow. The containment problem isn't the animals. The containment problem is the whole.
The sample. You mentioned the energy output was beyond what 105% beam should produce on any standard crystal.
Right. The electromagnetic readings from the monitoring stations are orders of magnitude beyond what even an overloaded spectrometer should produce, which means the test sample had properties we haven't catalogued. An anomalous crystal, something with an energy density that amplified the cascade beyond any model I've run. I don't know where they acquired it. I don't know who provided it to the facility.
That's new. I didn't have that piece. An outside sample from an unknown source run on equipment already operating 15 points past its safety ceiling. Somebody delivered that crystal knowing what it would do.
I can't confirm that. But I can tell you that the energy profile doesn't make sense unless the sample was selected for exactly that reaction.
Okay. Here's the question I think everyone listening needs answered. If the hole is open, can it be closed?
The honest answer is I don't know. The models suggest that a breach at this energy level creates a self-sustaining resonance. The hole feeds itself. You could shut down the spectrometer. You could destroy the facility, flatten the building, salt the earth. It wouldn't matter. The barrier at the rupture point is already gone. To close it, you would have to address the breach from the other side, from inside the border world itself. And I don't know how anyone would do that. I don't know if it's possible.
What happens next, if this is what it is?
You get more of them coming through. And the resonance spreads. What started in one building in the desert won't stay in one building. That's not how dimensional instability works. It bleeds outward. I don't know where it stops. I don't know that it does. You can't close the door from this side.
Corvo Caldwin, theoretical physicist. That episode I put out on displacement field research 14 months ago is still up. I'd download it tonight if I were you. I've been prepared for this. I'm not sure that helps.
Good evening, I'm Gordon Vance. What we are about to report tonight represents a significant change in the scope of the New Mexico situation. Over the past 24 hours, atmospheric disturbances have been observed in locations far outside the original affected area. Rolling blackouts have hit power grids across central New Mexico, northern Arizona, and parts of rural Kansas. We are no longer talking about one facility in the desert. We begin tonight with Piper Valentine, who is filing from a roadside position outside Roswell, New Mexico. Piper, what are you seeing?
Gordon, about 40 minutes ago, I watched something happen in the sky to the northwest that I've never seen before. There was I'd call it a curtain, a blue curtain. It hung in the air for about 11 minutes. It shimmered. It moved like fabric, like something was pushing through it from the other side. When it passed, a quarter-mile of highway behind me was buckled, 2 cars overturned, a cattle truck flipped clean onto its side and skidded into the median. The driver is alive. He's sitting on the shoulder right now with a cut on his head and his hands shaking. He told me that while the curtain was in the air, nothing had any weight. His truck just lifted off the road. Gordon, the pavement where it hit is cracked in a pattern I've never seen. It's not impact damage. It's like the road was pulled upward and then dropped back down. Whatever that thing was, it negated gravity for everything underneath it.
Piper, you said this was northwest of your position. How far from the original Black Mesa site?
At least 150 miles. And Gordon, This isn't the only report. I've been monitoring the scanner since this afternoon. Highway Patrol in 3 counties is reporting similar disturbances, blue atmospheric events, gravity disruption, buckled roads and downed power lines. And in at least 2 of those locations, things were seen on the ground afterward.
Things.
I'm relaying what's on the scanner. Small, fast-moving, aggressive toward livestock and people. Ranchers in 2 counties are reporting dead cattle with injuries that don't match any predator on record. 4 confirmed sighting locations across rural New Mexico and northern Arizona. 2 of those reports describe the same thing the hospital survivors described, something crab-shaped that moves toward the head.
Piper Valentine for us near Roswell tonight. Thank you, Piper. We're joined now by Dr. Yennefer Marigold, who last appeared on this broadcast 2 days ago before her interview was cut short. Dr. Marigold, thank you for coming back. We're going to let you finish this time.
Thank you, Gordon. What your reporter described, the blue atmospheric phenomenon, the gravity disruption, this is consistent with localized space-time displacement. The barrier between our dimension and the adjacent space has been ruptured at the original site. What we're seeing now is the resonance from that rupture bleeding outward. When the barrier thins at a secondary location, you get exactly what was described: gravitational distortion, electromagnetic discharge, and if the thinning is severe enough, a momentary opening, a tear, things cross through. The official position that this event is contained to one facility is no longer accurate. It was never going to stay contained. The physics don't allow for it.
Dr. Marigold, how far can this spread?
I can't give you a number. The resonance pattern is erratic. It's not expanding in a circle like a shock wave from the original site. It's appearing at points of geological weakness, at locations where the dimensional barrier was already thinner than average. Fault lines, areas with deep aquifer systems, places where the crust is stressed. That means it could surface anywhere the geology is right, and we don't have a map of dimensional barrier thickness. We have confirmed reports of similar events in rural Kansas, the Texas Panhandle, eastern Colorado, and northern Arizona. In the last hour, I've also received unconfirmed reports from rural Missouri. The containment hypothesis is dead, Gordon. What happened at Black Mesa is happening to the country.
I want to read that list again for anyone just joining us. New Mexico, Kansas, Texas Panhandle, eastern Colorado, northern Arizona, and now possibly rural Missouri. 6 states in 48 hours. Dr. Yennefer Marigold, thank you. We'll continue to update this story as new information comes in. If you are in any of the counties mentioned tonight, please stay indoors and monitor local emergency frequencies. I'm Gordon Vance.
You're listening to Nightlines. I'm Trevor Clinton. It's about midnight out here and every line on the board is lit up. I've been doing this show for a long time, mostly high school football and county fair schedules, and tonight I've got more calls than I've had in the last 3 months combined. So let's get to it. Lines are open. Tell me what's happening where you are. First caller tonight, you're on the air. Go ahead.
Hi, can you hear me? I'm calling from a motel outside Tucson. My name's Liara. I was driving west on I-10 about 4 hours ago, and something happened, and I pulled off at the first exit I could find.
Take your time. What happened on the highway?
There was a blue wave. I don't know what else to call it. It came across the parking lot of a rest stop where I'd pulled over, and it picked everything up. My car went over. I was inside it. It flipped upside down, and then it came back down, and I was just sitting there in the dark with the seatbelt holding me up. It lasted maybe 10 seconds, but it felt like the ground wasn't there anymore, like the ground just stopped being a thing you could count on. I crawled out through the window, and there was a man from the rest stop standing in the parking lot, just staring at the sky. He wouldn't talk to me. He just kept looking up.
Are you hurt? Are you safe right now?
I'm in the motel room. I locked the door. I called 911, and they put me on hold for 40 minutes, and then the call dropped. I just wanted to talk to somebody. I just wanted someone to tell me they saw it too.
You're not the only one tonight, Liara. You're the third person to describe that blue wave since I started the show. Stay where you are, keep the door locked, and keep the phone charged.
The third? Other people saw it?
3 calls before yours. 1 from outside Flagstaff, 2 from highway rest stops between here and Albuquerque. Same blue wave, same gravity loss, same damage on the ground. You're not losing your mind, Liara. Something is happening out here.
I keep thinking I should drive home, but I don't know which direction is safe anymore.
Stay put for now. Don't drive at night until we know more. Thank you for calling in, Liara. Okay, next caller. You're on Nightlines. Go ahead.
Yeah, look. My name's Morden. I'm in Phoenix, and I'm listening to this woman crying on the phone, and I'm sorry, but I gotta say what I'm thinking. This is a psyop. All of it. The government blows up a lab in the desert, they flood the airwaves with panic, and the next thing you know, everybody's too scared to ask what they were actually doing out there.
Morden, let me stop you there. That woman just had her car flipped upside down on a highway. You think the government did that to scare people?
I think there are weapons that can do that. Microwave weapons. Directed energy. You've heard about this stuff, right? The military's been testing area denial systems for 20 years. You want to lock down a region? You make the population think something supernatural is going on. Oldest trick there is.
I hear you, Morden. And I'm not going to sit here and tell you the government has been honest about this, because they haven't. But I've got callers in 4 states tonight describing the same blue atmospheric event. 4 states at the same time. I don't know what kind of weapon does that.
The kind they don't tell you about. That's the whole point. You only know about the ones they want you to know about.
Morden in Phoenix, I appreciate the call. I don't agree with you, but I'm not going to pretend the government's been honest with us either. Look, I've been getting calls all night from people who are scared. Real people. I know some of them by name. Whatever this is, it's not a drill. Okay, one more call tonight. Caller, you're on Nightlines.
Evening. Name's Zevran. I'm out past Wilcox, eastern Arizona. I run about 60 head of cattle on a lease. Last night something came through a tear in the wall of my barn.
A tear in the wall? What do you mean by that?
I mean the air inside the barn split open about 3 feet off the ground. Blue light. Lasted maybe 2 seconds. And then something was standing on the floor that wasn't there before. About the size of a large dog. 4 legs. Thick body. It made a sound I've never heard from an animal. Low. Wet. Like something between a bark and a retch.
And this was inside your barn. It just appeared.
1 second the barn was empty. Next second it wasn't. I had the light on my phone pointed right at it and it turned toward the light. It had, I don't want to say what its face looked like. It didn't have a face the way an animal has a face.
Zevran, what did you do?
I closed the barn door, locked it with a padlock, went back inside my house. It's still in there. I can hear it moving around when the wind's quiet.
You're not going back in to look?
No, sir. I am not. I've been ranching this land for as long as I can remember. I know every animal that's supposed to be on it. That thing in my barn isn't anything I've ever seen. Hell, it's not anything I've ever even heard of.
Zevran, have you called the sheriff?
Called about an hour ago. Dispatch said they're overwhelmed and couldn't give me a time. So I'm sitting in my kitchen with the shotgun on the table and the radio on. That's where I am.
Folks, I don't know what tonight is. I don't have a single answer for any of you. But the lines are staying open as long as we've got power. Stay inside. Keep your lights on. We're here.
The following is an official emergency alert issued by the Federal Emergency Management Agency in coordination with the Department of Homeland Security. This alert is effective immediately for the following states and territories: New Mexico, Arizona, Kansas, Texas, and Colorado. A biological and atmospheric hazard advisory has been declared for all counties within 50 miles of identified anomaly zones in the above states. The nature of the hazard is under active federal assessment. classification of the hazard is pending. No further information regarding the nature of the hazard is available at this time. All persons within the advisory area are directed to shelter in place immediately. Do not leave residential or commercial structures. Do not approach, handle, or attempt to contain non-domestic wildlife of unknown classification. Do not approach, do not attempt to contain. If atmospheric disturbances are observed, including but not limited to blue or violet luminous phenomena, gravitational displacement, or electromagnetic interference with household electronics, all persons are directed to move to the lowest interior room of the nearest available structure. Close all windows and exterior doors. Remain in place until the disturbance has concluded. All civilian vehicular traffic within the advisory area is suspended effective immediately. Roads designated for federal emergency use will not be accessible to civilian vehicles. Law enforcement and National Guard personnel have been authorized to enforce travel restrictions within the advisory zone. Unauthorized travel within anomaly zones is prohibited and may result in detention under federal emergency authority. This advisory will be updated at 00:0600 hours, or when new information becomes available from the Federal Emergency Management Agency. Repeat, all persons within 50 miles of identified anomaly zones are directed to shelter in place immediately. Do not approach non-domestic wildlife of unknown classification. Do not leave residential structures. Await further instruction. This has been an official alert from the Federal Emergency Management Agency. This message will repeat.
Good evening. I'm Gordon Vance. Tonight we are covering what is now being described as a global agricultural emergency. In the 5 days since the Black Mesa event, the atmospheric anomalies we've been reporting on, now being called portal storms, have spread to every continent. Rural farmland across the central United States is being abandoned. We begin tonight with Jim Kerrigan, who is reporting internationally for the first time on this broadcast. Jim, what are you seeing from overseas?
Gordon, I'm reporting from a press center in Geneva where the United Nations has just convened an emergency session. I can confirm that the portal storm events are no longer confined to the American Southwest. Portal storm activity has been reported in southern France, across rural Japan, and in the Australian outback. The phenomenon is global. The UN session opened with satellite imagery from the American Midwest. What they showed, Gordon, was farmland in Kansas and Nebraska, where foreign plant growth has taken root in disturbed soil. Not weeks of growth, days. Whatever this flora is, it's spreading at a speed that our agricultural science has no answer for. And it's not just the plants. The New Mexico and Arizona deserts are reporting colony infestations of large burrowing insects. The entomologists at the UN table couldn't classify them. They're calling them ant lions for now, based on their burrowing pattern, but the specimens are the size of a German shepherd.
Jim, is there any coordinated international response taking shape at this point?
The emergency session is still in progress, but the tone in the room is bleak. There's no shared understanding for what this is. Half the delegations are treating it as a biological contamination event and pushing for quarantine measures. The other half are still demanding more data before committing resources. The peacekeeping deployments that were authorized last week are already stretched past capacity in the American Southwest alone.
Jim Kerrigan in Geneva tonight. Thank you, Jim. For more on what this means at home, we're joined now by Miranda Alenko, a federal logistics coordinator specializing in emergency management. Miranda, what does an agricultural disruption at this scale actually look like on the ground?
Thank you, Gordon. What it looks like is this. In the Texas Panhandle, a grain cooperative covering 4,000 acres was evacuated 2 days ago after workers reported hundreds of the crab-like organisms emerging from the fields at dusk. That cooperative supplied grain to 11 regional distributors. Those distributors are now operating at reduced capacity with no timeline for restocking. Multiply that across every state where the anomalies have touched farmland, and you are looking at, I don't want to overstate this, but the numbers I'm seeing from the Department of Agriculture are consistent with the early indicators of a famine-level supply disruption. Let me rephrase that. What I'm saying is that the agricultural supply chain is under stress that we have not seen in the modern era. Stock markets suspended trading yesterday. Food bank reserves in 7 states are being drawn down faster than they can be replenished, and the migration has started. People in rural areas are moving toward the cities because the land isn't safe to work anymore.
Miranda, when you say the land isn't safe to work, how widespread is that? Are we talking about the anomaly zones only or beyond them?
Beyond them, that's the problem. The anomaly zones are where the atmospheric events are concentrated, but the fauna doesn't stay inside the zone. These things move, they breed, and they don't respect a 50-mile perimeter on a FEMA map. Ranchers 100 miles from the nearest confirmed tier are losing cattle to organisms they've never seen before.
Miranda Alenko, Federal Emergency Management. Thank you. Before we close tonight, I want to play something. This is an audio clip sent to us by a wheat farmer in western Kansas. No video, just sound. He recorded it on his phone from inside his truck at the edge of his property 2 nights ago. He drove out at dusk to check on his irrigation lines and heard this coming from the fields to the south. That sound you just heard is not wind. It is not machinery. It is not any animal native to western Kansas. We've had 3 audio engineers listen to it, and none of them can identify it. That farmer has since evacuated his property. His cooperative has shut down. I'm Gordon Vance.
I see empty seats tonight, more than last week. I'm not going to pretend that doesn't hurt, because it does. But you can. And that matters more than I can tell you right now. Habakkuk, chapter 3, verses 17 and 18. Although the fig tree shall not blossom, neither shall fruit be on the vines. The labor of the olive shall fail, and the field shall yield no meat. The flock shall be cut off from the fold, and there shall be no herd in the stalls. Yet I will rejoice in the Lord. I will joy in the God of my salvation. Yet, that one word is carrying the whole verse. Everything before it is lost. The tree won't bloom. The vines are bare. The field's gone. The animals gone. Habakkuk watched his world come apart. And he listed every single thing that was failing. And then he said, yet, that was written thousands of years ago. It could have been written this morning. I heard the same broadcast you heard. The fields are failing. Farms across 4 states abandoned in 3 days. I don't know what's growing in the soil where the wheat used to be, and neither does anyone on that news desk. I don't pretend to know what happened in that desert. I'm not a scientist, but I know what the world feels like right now. And it feels like the verse I just read to you. Everything we counted on is shaking. The sky itself is doing things the sky was never supposed to do. And I want to tell you something I believe all the way to the bottom of my chest. God's love is not on the other side of what's coming through. It's here, right here, in this room, in these seats, in the fact that you got dressed tonight and drove to a church when half the county is packing a car. Paul wrote to the Romans, for I am persuaded that neither death, nor life, nor angels, nor principalities, nor powers, nor things present, nor things to come, nor height, nor depth, nor any other creature shall be able to separate us from the love of God. Nor any other creature. I need you to hear that. Whatever is out there in those fields tonight, whatever crawled through, whatever opened in the sky, Paul covered it. 2,000 years ago, he wrote the words, any other creature, and that means anything. Anything with legs or wings or no name we have yet. It cannot separate you from the love of God. It doesn't have that power. Being scared right now is honest. I'm scared too. I went out to my car after the evening news and I sat there for a while with the engine off. Didn't pray, didn't think, just sat. And after a while I came inside and opened this book. And Habakkuk was waiting for me with a list of everything he'd lost and a single word that refused to let go. Yet, that's our word tonight. The fields have failed. Yet, the sky is broken. Yet, we don't understand what's happening to the world God gave us. Yet, we are here. And his love is here. And nothing out there can take it. Let us pray. Lord, we don't understand what you're asking of us. The fields had yielded no meat. The flocks are scattered. The sky opens and things we can't name walk the earth you made. We're tired. Some of us are angry. Some of us are too worn down to feel much of anything tonight. But we are here. We showed up. Help us hold on to that word. Yet, Lord. Amen. I'll see you next Sunday.
Good evening. I'm Gordon Vance. Before we begin, I want to try to reach our field correspondents. Piper Valentine filed her last report from a roadside position in southern New Mexico 4 days ago. We have been unable to reach her since. Her cell phone goes to a recording that says the network is unavailable. Her emergency satellite phone rings and rings. Piper, if you are monitoring this broadcast on any frequency, please contact the desk. We have also not been able to reach our bureau in Houston, or our stringer in Phoenix, or the AP wire desk in Dallas. The lines either give a busy signal or they connect and nobody picks up. I've tried 6 numbers in the last hour, 2 of them connected to nothing. What I can tell you tonight is this. The global communications infrastructure is breaking apart. Cellular networks in 7 states are down or intermittent. Landline exchanges are overloaded in every major city east of the Rockies. Internet traffic out of the western United States has dropped by 60% in the last 48 hours. Not because people stopped using it, but because the routing hardware is going offline faster than it can be replaced. The portal storms are doing this. Every atmospheric event leaves an electromagnetic footprint that burns out transformers, kills relay stations, and corrupts data lines within a radius of 50 to 70 miles. And the storms are not slowing down, they are accelerating. The world is losing the ability to talk to itself. We do have one report tonight. Jim Kerrigan transmitted this from Tokyo approximately 9 hours ago. It was received on a satellite delay and portions of the audio are corrupted beyond recovery. We are going to play what we have. I want to warn you that the signal degrades significantly toward the end.
This is Jim Kerrigan filing from the International Press Center in Shinjuku, Tokyo. The UN emergency session has relocated here following the evacuation of Geneva headquarters due to portal storm activity over Lake Geneva. The session is in its 3rd continuous day. The delegations are, I would describe the atmosphere here as overwhelmed. Peacekeeping forces deployed to containment zones across the American Midwest. In southern France and in Queensland, Australia, are reporting that the biological infestation has exceeded their operational capacity. The entities are not responding to conventional. The infestation is spreading faster. Confirmed dead in Bordeaux. The French Interior Ministry has not released the count. Communications out of rural Japan have been severed since yesterday morning. The rural United States is, and I want to stress this, the rural United States is functionally evacuated. Millions of people have abandoned agricultural land in the last week and are moving toward fortified urban centers with National Guard presence and food distribution. The infestation is, I can hear something outside the press center. The lights in the building just...
That was Jim Kerrigan, filed from Tokyo 9 hours ago. We have not been able to reach Jim since that transmission. The audio corruption you heard is consistent with electromagnetic interference from a nearby portal storm event. We don't know if the event was in progress when the recording ended or if it arrived afterward. There is no expert on this broadcast tonight. I considered reaching out to Dr. Marigold. I considered calling Captain Horner. But I sat at this desk for an hour before we went on the air, and I tried to think of what question I would ask them. And I couldn't come up with one that changes anything about what I'm reading on the wire. The wire from United Nations Peacekeeping reads as follows, quote, current biological incursion activity exceeds the operational capacity of all deployed multinational forces. Reinforcement timelines are not available, end quote. Good night. I'm Gordon Vance. We will be back tomorrow evening if the uplink holds.
The following is an official emergency alert issued by the Federal Emergency Management Agency in coordination with the Department of Homeland Security and the Department of Defense. This alert supersedes all previous shelter-in-place advisories. This alert is effective immediately for all rural, exurban, and unincorporated populations within the continental United States. All persons residing outside of designated metropolitan areas with a population of 50,000 or greater are directed to relocate immediately to the nearest federal urban staging center. Shelter-in-place protocols for rural and unincorporated areas have been rescinded. Remaining in rural areas is no longer considered a survivable posture. National Guard evacuation corridors have been established on all federal interstate highways. Civilian vehicular traffic is authorized on designated corridors only. Departure from designated corridors is prohibited and may result in detention. All vehicles should travel with headlights on and at speeds not exceeding 45 miles per hour. Do not stop for any reason between corridor checkpoints. Federal urban staging centers are operational in the following cities: Albuquerque, Denver, Oklahoma City, Kansas City, Phoenix, El Paso, Dallas, and Salt Lake City. Additional staging centers will be announced as they become operational. Food, water, and medical services are available at all designated centers. Non-domestic wildlife of unknown classification continues to be reported across all rural advisory zones. Do not approach, do not engage, do not attempt to defend agricultural structures or livestock. Abandon all non-residential property and proceed to the nearest evacuation corridor. Repeat, shelter in place for rural areas has been rescinded. All persons outside designated metropolitan areas are directed to relocate immediately via federal evacuation corridors. Do not remain in rural residential structures. Do not attempt to defend property. Proceed to the nearest federal urban staging center and await further instruction. This has been an official alert from the Federal Emergency Management Agency. This message will repeat.
K5ADR calling any station on 14.225 megahertz. This is K5ADR, Southwest Network, day 9 of continuous operation. If you're hearing this, please respond. Any station.
We 7HWM. I read you, Charles. Signal's weak tonight, but I've got you. Did you hear the female alert about an hour ago?
Copy. I heard it. They're telling everyone outside the cities to leave.
No longer considered a survivable posture. That's what they said, word for word. I wrote it down.
Hosea, the nearest corridor is Interstate 40. That's 90 miles from me on roads I haven't driven since the grid went down. 90 miles in the dark with whatever's out there in the fields. And if I leave, this antenna goes cold.
I know it.
Every settlement on this log is listening for us. Bellin is listening for us. If we go dark, they've got nobody. So I'm staying on. For now, I'm staying on.
Running on the generator. Got about 3 days of fuel if I'm careful with it. Maybe 4 if I cut down to transmitting twice a day instead of 3. The grid's been down since Tuesday. No cell, no landline, no internet. Just this radio and the 2 handhelds I built last year.
Same here. I've been on this frequency for 6 hours tonight. You're the 4th contact. I raised a station in Las Cruces around 8, a woman in Flagstaff around 9:30 who said she was running a handheld off a car battery, and a voice out of Amarillo that came in for about 40 seconds before I lost him. He was trying to give me a head count, but the signal dropped.
4 contacts in 6 hours. That's better than last night. I got 2. One of them was just carrier tone. Somebody keying the mic but not talking.
Could have been someone who didn't know how to use the equipment. A lot of people are pulling radios out of closets right now who haven't touched one in years.
Could be. What's it like where you are tonight?
Quiet. I saw a blue flash to the south about an hour after sundown. Lasted maybe 3 seconds. Too far away to hear anything, but it lit up the horizon like heat lightning. I want to run the settlement log if you're ready. Same list as yesterday. I'll call the name. You tell me what you've got.
Go ahead.
Moriarty.
Silent since Thursday.
Vaughn.
Silent since Wednesday. I tried 3 times today. Nothing.
Mountain Air.
Responded yesterday morning. A woman. Said there were about 30 people sheltering in the high school. I tried her again at noon today and got nothing.
Logging Mountain Air is intermittent. Estancia.
Silent. Since Monday.
Willard.
I don't even have Willard on my list, Charles. Who was there?
Rancher named Pete, who was running a generator out of his barn. He checked in twice last week, hasn't responded since Saturday.
Could be the generator ran out.
Could be. Logging it. Bullion.
Still active. They got a group of about 60 at the community center. They said they're rationing food and water, and they've got armed volunteers on the perimeter around the clock. No incidents with the creatures yet, but they told me they can hear things moving through the fields at night, scratching sounds. They keep the floodlights on.
Copy. Bellin is the only confirmed active south of Albuquerque at this point. Let me finish the list. Socorro.
Silent since last Friday. They had a ham operator at the fire station. He checked in every morning at 7. Friday morning he didn't.
Logging it. I'm counting. That's 11 settlements we've lost contact with in the last 9 days. 11 that we were tracking. 1 intermittent, 1 active.
There are more we weren't tracking.
I know. I'm just logging what I can. Somebody should be keeping a record of this.
Charles, I picked up something about an hour before you came on tonight. Weak signal. Couldn't hold it for more than 15 seconds. A voice I didn't recognize. Male. Sounded young. He was repeating something about a building. He kept saying lambda.
Lambda? Like the Greek letter?
That's what it sounded like. Lambda something. Building. Complex. I couldn't make out the rest. He said it twice, and then the signal dropped. No call sign. No location. Just the one word repeating.
I don't know what lambda means. Could be a building designation, could be a code, but I'm logging it. Date, time, frequency, estimated signal strength. If it comes back, try to get a bearing.
I will.
K5ADR standing by on 14.225. To anyone hearing this transmission, we are on this frequency every night between 8 and 2 a.m. If you are heading for the corridors, check in before you go. Give us your heading and your head count. If you're staying, check in anyway. We're keeping a record. Somebody has to.
We 7HWM standing by. Same frequency, same time tomorrow. If the generator holds...
If the generator holds, K5ADR. Good night.
Good evening. I'm Gordon Vance. What I'm about to report tonight is, well, it's unbelievable. But based on everything that's been happening the last few weeks, I think you may believe anything at this point. At approximately 2:14 p.m. Eastern Time, astronomical monitoring stations on 6 continents detected multiple objects entering Earth's upper atmosphere from a vector that does not correspond to any known satellite, aircraft, or spacecraft. The signals are not singular. Military radar arrays and civilian tracking stations are reporting hundreds of distinct objects moving in coordinated formation. They entered the atmosphere over the Pacific, the Atlantic, and the Indian Ocean simultaneously. Within 2 hours of first detection, large structures began appearing over Paris, Shanghai, New York, and Moscow. Similar reports are coming in from every continent with functioning communications. We go now to Captain Arcturus Horner, who has been our military analyst throughout this crisis. Captain, what is the military posture right now?
Gordon, NORAD has gone to DEFCON 1. That is the first time in the operational history of North American Aerospace Defense Command that DEFCON 1 has been declared. Every branch of the armed forces is at maximum readiness. Air Force and Navy assets are scrambling from every operational base on the continent. The incoming formations are not consistent with any human aerospace technology. The objects are too large, too fast, and too numerous. Their entry vectors suggest they originated from outside the solar system, or from a dimensional source similar to the portal storms. The portal storms may have been a signal. Something heard it. We have no doctrine for this. I want to be honest about that.
Captain, you said no doctrine. What does that mean for the response?
It means there is no playbook for what I'm looking at. Every contingency we train for assumes a known threat category. This is not a known threat category. Gordon, can I go off the record for a moment?
Captain, we're live.
Right. Then I'll say it on the record. Whatever is coming down through the atmosphere right now is not something our military was built to fight. I hope I'm reading this situation incorrectly.
Captain Arcturus Horner, thank you. We have Jim Kerrigan filing live from a rooftop position in Paris. Jim, what are you seeing?
Gordon, I'm on a rooftop in the 6th arrondissement overlooking the Seine. About 40 minutes ago, 4 objects appeared over the eastern skyline. They're airborne, they look biological. I don't know how else to describe them. They're shaped like insects, but they're the size of commercial aircraft. There's a sound, Gordon. A low harmonic drone that I can feel in my chest from 6 blocks away. French military helicopters went up about 20 minutes ago, and I haven't seen them since. The power just flickered in the building below me. I think there's an electromagnetic...
We've lost Jim Kerrigan's feed from Paris. The signal cut to static mid-transmission, consistent with an electromagnetic pulse. That is the second time we have lost a field correspondence signal during a live broadcast. We are attempting to re-establish contact. Jim Kerrigan, if you can hear us, we are standing by. We have live footage coming in now from a rooftop camera in Midtown Manhattan. We're going to put this on the air. What you're seeing is the skyline looking south from 42nd Street. It's walking. I'm being told the object we're looking at is approximately 40 feet tall. It has 3 legs. It's standing in the intersection of Broadway, and it's in the street. It stepped over a 6-story building to get there. The camera's still rolling, and I don't know what to say about what I'm looking at. We have a joint emergency statement from the Pentagon and the United Nations that was drafted approximately 1 hour ago. I want to stress that this was written before the footage you just saw. I'm going to read it as received. Quote, "A coordinated, non-terrestrial incursion of unknown origin is currently in progress across multiple continents. All civilian populations are advised to shelter in place immediately. Military assets are engaging across all theaters. Further updates will be issued as operational conditions permit." End quote. That statement was written an hour ago. The thing I just watched step over a building in Manhattan was not in that statement. Things are moving very fast, and we're going to try and keep you updated. I'm Gordon Vance. Stay indoors. Stay off the roads. We'll be here as long as we can.
You're listening to Nightlines. I'm Trevor Clinton. I don't have a script tonight, and I don't have a guest booked. I don't have a producer in the booth. She went home to her family about 3 hours ago, and I told her to stay there. What I have is a phone line that's still working, a transmitter that hasn't gone down yet, and the same chair I've been sitting in for 11 years, so we're going to do what we do. Lines are open. For those of you just finding this frequency, earlier today, objects entered the atmosphere over every major continent. They're not ours. The military is engaged. That's all I know. That's all anyone knows. First caller, go ahead.
Hello, my name is Liliana. I'm calling from a church basement in Chicago. There are about 40 of us down here. We've been praying together since this afternoon.
Liliana, are you safe where you are? Is the building secure?
We're below ground. The pastor opened the building at noon when the first reports came on the television. Some of these people I've never met before. They came in off the street and sat down. A woman brought her 2 children and a bag of groceries. Someone else brought blankets.
Are you frightened, Liliana?
No, I know that probably sounds strange to you, but I'm not. I don't know what those things are up in the sky. I don't know what they want or where they came from, but I know I'm in a room with 40 people who showed up because they didn't want to be alone tonight. Someone brought soup. The candles are lit. We're praying. That's enough for now.
Liliana, can I ask you something? What are you praying for tonight?
We're praying for the soldiers, for the people who are outside right now and can't get to shelter, for the families separated by the road closures, and we're praying for the morning, that the morning comes and we're still here to see it. That's the simplest prayer I know.
That might be the sanest thing I've heard all day. Thank you, Liliana. Keep those candles lit. All 40 of you. Okay. Next caller. You're on Nightlines.
Hey, name's Weil. I'm calling from a warehouse outside Detroit. We've been set up here since day 2 of the portal storms. 12 people, good walls, a diesel generator, and about 3 weeks of food and water if we ration it.
3 weeks of supplies, Weil. You started early.
I listened to your show 2 weeks ago when the first caller described those blue waves outside Tucson. Went to the store the next morning. Bought rice, canned goods, water jugs, batteries. My neighbors thought I'd lost it. 2 of those neighbors are in the warehouse with me now.
Do you have any advice for people listening tonight who maybe didn't prepare?
Yeah. If you still have running water, fill every container in your house tonight. Bathtubs, pots, trash bags lined inside garbage cans. Water stops before food does. Caloric density matters more than taste. Rice, beans, peanut butter, cooking oil. If you have a first aid kit, know where it is right now. Not tomorrow, right now. And talk to your neighbors. Tonight, not tomorrow. Knock on the door and say, what do you have and what do you need? 12 people defending a building is 10 times safer than 1 person alone in an apartment. Find your people, pool what you have. Assign somebody to stay awake.
Will in Detroit. I hope every person listening tonight wrote that down. Water first. Talk to your neighbors. Don't wait until tomorrow. Thank you, brother. Stay safe out there. One more caller tonight. Go ahead. You're on.
I was on a rooftop in Philadelphia. My apartment building has a roof deck, and I went up because I wanted to see. Everybody said stay inside, but I wanted to see what was happening.
What's your name?
Dorian.
Dorian, take your time.
They came from the east, over the river. There were 3 of them. They were walking on legs, 3 legs each, and they were taller than anything on Market Street. The sound they made, I could feel it in my teeth.
I'm here, Dorian. Keep going.
The National Guard was on the bridge. The Ben Franklin, they had tanks. I could see the muzzle flashes. They fired at the first one and the thing didn't stop. It didn't even slow down. It pointed something at the bridge and the tanks were gone. Part of the bridge was gone. Just gone. I came downstairs. I locked the door. I've been sitting on the floor of my kitchen since then. That was about 4 hours ago. I called my sister in Baltimore. She didn't pick up. I called my mother. Line was busy. I don't know why I'm calling a radio station. I didn't want to be the only person in the world who saw what I saw.
Dorian, you're not alone. You're on the air right now with every person who's listening to this show. I want you to stay on the line with me, okay?
Okay.
Is your building still standing? Any damage where you are?
The building is okay. The power went out about an hour ago. I'm on my phone. I have maybe 30% battery left.
Turn off everything on that phone except the call. Screen brightness all the way down. You stay on this line as long as you need to, Dorian.
I keep hearing the sound, even from inside with the windows closed. That low sound, like the air itself is vibrating.
I know. I hear you. Just keep talking to me.
There's a car alarm going off somewhere. It's been going for an hour. Nobody's turning it off. I don't think anybody's going outside to turn it off.
That's okay. Stay where you are. You've got walls around you and a voice on the phone. That's what tonight is. We're just going to get through tonight.
Okay? Yeah. Okay.
Folks, I'm keeping this line open for Dorian. She's staying with me tonight. The rest of you, stay inside, fill your water. Keep your radios on. We're here all night.
We interrupt our coverage to bring you a live address from Washington. Senator Nick Garvey is speaking tonight in an emergency executive capacity. The president and vice president were killed in the initial strikes on Washington earlier today. The Speaker of the House has not been located. Senator Garvey is currently the highest-ranking surviving member of the constitutional line of succession. This address is being carried on all remaining domestic and international broadcast frequencies.
My fellow Americans, and to the people of every nation receiving this broadcast tonight, I am speaking to you from an undisclosed location because the building where I would normally be standing no longer exists. I want to be honest with you about that from the beginning. I think we have reached the point where anything less than honesty is an insult to what you have endured. The forces that have entered our atmosphere are not human. They are not from any country on this earth. They arrived through the same dimensional disruption that began 2 weeks ago in the New Mexico desert, and they have engaged military forces on every continent simultaneously. I am not going to stand here and tell you that we expected this. We did not. What I can tell you is that every branch of the United States Armed Forces has been ordered into active defense. The Army, the Navy, the Air Force, the Marines, and the National Guard in all 50 states are engaged or deploying at this hour. NATO allies are coordinating joint operations across the Atlantic and Pacific theaters. Civilian defense mobilizations are underway in 37 states. The people of this country and this world are fighting back. That is not a hope, that is a fact. I know what you have seen today. I have seen it too. I watched the footage from Manhattan this afternoon. I received the reports from Paris, from Shanghai, from Moscow. The scale of what we are facing is, I was going to say something about how we have never seen anything like this, but you already know that. Every word I could reach for has stopped meaning anything in the last 2 weeks. I spoke this afternoon with a National Guard commander in Philadelphia. Her name is Colonel Rivera. She told me her unit lost 11 vehicles on the Ben Franklin Bridge in 90 seconds. 11 vehicles and the men and women inside them. And then she told me her remaining personnel had regrouped 2 blocks east of the bridge and were still holding their position as of 1 hour ago. I am going to carry what she told me for a long time. This is what I am asking of you tonight. Stay in your homes. If you are in a shelter, stay there. Conserve your food and water. Follow the emergency broadcasts on any frequency you can receive. Do not attempt to travel on the highways. They are not safe and they are needed for military movement. If you have medical training, make yourself known to your local emergency coordinator. If you have a neighbor who is alone, go to them. Do not let anyone in your community face this night by themselves. I was not supposed to be the person giving this address. I am a senator from a state most of you have never visited. I am not a general. I am not a wartime leader. I am a public servant who took an oath 22 years ago. And tonight that oath is the only thing I have. It is going to have to be enough. I have spoken tonight with leaders in London, Berlin, Tokyo, and Canberra. Every one of them said the same thing. We stand with you. This is not an American crisis. This is a human crisis. And we will answer it as one species. We will fight. United States of America and every nation that stands with us will fight what has come into our world. I believe that. I want you to know that I believe that. God bless you. God bless this country. And God help us all.
Senator Nick Garvey, speaking tonight in emergency executive capacity from an undisclosed location. The key points of the address. The incoming forces are confirmed non-terrestrial in origin. All military branches are in active defense. NATO coordination is underway across multiple theaters, and all civilians are directed to shelter in place immediately. Senator Garvey stated that he believes the country and its allies will fight. We will bring you further updates as they become available. I'm Gordon Vance. Good evening. I'm Gordon Vance. I am alone in this studio. Everyone else went home to go be with their families. I stayed because someone needs to tell you what's actually happening. The broadcast you're hearing is being transmitted on whatever frequencies are still operational. I don't know how many of you can hear this. I don't know how many of you are left to listen. Joining me by phone, and I should say this is a military landline because the civilian networks are down, is Captain Arcturus Horner, retired Marine Tactical Operations Analyst. Captain, are you there?
I'm here, Gordon. I don't know for how long. This line's been cutting in and out for the last hour.
Tell us what you know.
Coordinated engagements on every continent since 0600 Eastern. I've been monitoring 3 military frequencies and a NATO relay out of Norfolk. The picture isn't good. I'm going to give it to you straight because I don't think there's any point in doing it the other way.
Go ahead.
The 3rd Armored Division engaged a Strider formation outside Baltimore at 0800. Full column. Abrams tanks at 800 yards. Direct hits. Multiple rounds. The Striders didn't stop. Didn't slow down. They returned fire with some kind of directed energy weapon that cut through the armor like it wasn't there. 2 tanks gone in the first exchange.
The M1A1 Abrams is the heaviest armored vehicle in the U.S. military.
It is. It's designed to take a hit from anything on this planet. The division commander pulled back to a secondary line and hit them again. Same result. At 0845, he sent an open channel request for any unit in the theater with heavier ordnance. That request was never answered. The division went dark at 0930, 90 minutes from first contact to silence.
What about the Air Force?
Worse. Langley scrambled F-22s over the Chesapeake Bay to intercept the airborne entities. They're calling them gunships, and I'll use that word because we don't have a better one. The gunships operate at altitudes and speeds our fighters can't match. The entire Langley formation, 12 aircraft, was destroyed in under 4 minutes.
4 minutes?
4 minutes, Gordon. The F-22 is the most capable air superiority fighter on this planet. 12 of them lasted 4 minutes against things that don't show up on radar until they want to.
And Europe?
NATO scrambled everything they had. Eurofighters out of Germany, Rafales from France. 300 aircraft across 6 nations in the largest aerial defense operation since the Second World War. By 0815 Berlin time, they'd lost a third of them. The rest were ordered to disengage at 0900 because there was nothing left to coordinate with. Air superiority over the continental United States was gone in 90 minutes. Over Europe, 2 hours. I don't have numbers from the Pacific because those transmissions stopped at 0745 and haven't come back.
Captain, what about naval forces?
The Atlantic and Pacific fleets are holding at 200 nautical miles from the nearest entity formation. That's the last report I have.
Is that a defensive posture?
That's the United States Navy deciding it can't get any closer without losing the fleet. I spent 22 years in the Marine Corps, Gordon. I've studied every major engagement from Guadalcanal to Falia. I've never seen anything like this. Everything we have, everything every military on this planet has, isn't working. Not failing slowly, not losing ground, just not working. Like bringing a garden hose to a house fire.
The Pentagon contacted this station 40 minutes ago and asked us to stay on the air. They said their relay network is failing across 3 regions and they need civilian broadcast infrastructure to coordinate.
That tracks with what I'm hearing. Base-to-base communication is collapsing. If the Pentagon's asking a news station to keep its transmitter on, that tells you where we are.
Where are we, Captain?
I don't have an answer for that one, Gordon. I've had an answer for every question you've asked me since the first day of this thing. I identified the HECU. I called DEFCON 1 before it was announced. I don't have an answer for this one. I'm gonna stay on this line as long as it holds, and I'll give you whatever comes through. But I need you to understand that what I'm watching right now, we've never seen anything like this, and I don't think there's a way to stop it.
Captain Arcturus Horner, staying with us on a military landline. We'll continue this broadcast as long as we can. I'm Gordon Vance. Stay with us.
If you're hearing this, I don't know how long I've got on this frequency before it goes down to. Everything's going down. Cell towers, landlines. The internet's been dead since about 7 this morning, and the power grid is flickering in and out where I am. I'm running on a battery backup and a prayer. My name's Johnny Wells. Some of you know this show. I've been talking about Black Mesa since before anyone in the mainstream press would say the name out loud. And I need you to hear me right now, because what's happening today isn't random. It isn't chaos. What you're watching is the last step in a sequence that started in a laboratory under the New Mexico desert. The Cascade broke the wall. I told you that on day 1. The things that came through, the creatures in the fields, the portal storms, that was bleed, overflow from the other side, pouring through the cracks. But that was never the real threat. The real threat was always what would notice. The portal storms weren't just storms. They were a signal. Every time one of those things ripped open over a city or a field or an ocean, it was broadcasting our position across dimensions we don't have names for. Think of it like a flare going up in the dark. And something out there, something that's been doing this to other worlds for longer than we've had language, saw the flare and came. What's walking through our cities right now isn't wildlife. It isn't random. Look at the reports. They hit every continent at the same time, the same hour. Striders in Baltimore, Striders in Berlin, Striders in Beijing. That's not an invasion. That's a harvest. They've done this before, and they brought the equipment to prove it. The creatures from the portal storms, the head crabs, the things in the water, those came from a place called Zen. I've had that name for months from sources I can't identify anymore because most of them are dead. Zen is a border world, a waypoint, and whatever's hitting us now, it was already using Zen as a staging area before the Cascade even happened. They didn't stumble through a crack. They used the crack as a door. I've been screaming about Black Mesa for 3 years. I've been telling anyone who'd listen that what they were building in that desert was going to crack the world open. And I was right. I was right about every single piece of it. And I'd give anything to have been wrong. Because being right doesn't matter when the tanks don't work. Being right doesn't matter when the Air Force loses every jet it sends up. I've got a shortwave radio in the other room pulling fragments off military channels, and it's just call signs going quiet, one after the other, like a roll call where nobody answers. I don't know if this is the last broadcast I'll ever make. Feels like it might be. If you're out there and you can hear this, whatever these things are, they're not here to negotiate and they're not here to communicate. They're here because we lit a fire in the dark and they came to see what was burning. And now they're going to take what's left. This is Johnny Wells. If this frequency holds, I'll keep talking. If it doesn't, well, you know where it started.
I'm Gordon Vance. The wire reports are thinner now. I've received 4 in the last 2 hours, down from over 30 in the first 3. Most of what's coming through is fragmentary. Partial transmissions, some of them cut off mid-sentence. Here's what I can confirm. Ground forces in the European theater have been routed. That's the word on the wire, routed. NATO command in Brussels went dark at 11:15 Central European time. The German Bundeswehr held a defensive line outside Frankfurt for just under 2 hours before the Striders pushed through it. The French Army's last confirmed transmission came from a garrison south of Lyon at 10:40. They reported Striders entering the city from 3 directions simultaneously and requested air support. There was no air support to send. The Asian theater went silent early. I mentioned in my last broadcast that transmissions from the Pacific stopped at 07:45. They haven't come back. I have one partial relay from a South Korean military station logged at 0900 local time that described Strider formations moving through Seoul. The transmission lasted 11 seconds. On the domestic front, the 2nd Marine Division attempted to hold a line along Interstate 95 between Richmond and Washington. They dug in with everything they had. Bradley fighting vehicles, TO-RU missile systems, crew-served weapons at every overpass. A Marine colonel, whose name I won't read because his family may be listening, sent a request at 0100 asking for nuclear release authority on his position. He was asking permission to drop a nuclear weapon on himself and his own men because he believed it was the only thing that might slow them down. The request was denied, or it wasn't answered. The record doesn't say which. His unit went dark at 10:45. I have one field report tonight. This came in about 40 minutes ago. It's from Piper Valentine.
Gordon, I'm in a civilian shelter in Albuquerque, basement of a school gymnasium on the south side. There are about 200 people down here, families mostly. Some of them have been here since yesterday. I can hear them outside, the walking ones. They're moving down Central Avenue toward the University District. The National Guard had a checkpoint at the intersection of Central and University about 3 hours ago. I watched them set it up from the window upstairs before they made us come down here. Sandbags, 2 Bradleys, maybe 40 soldiers. That checkpoint's been quiet for the last hour. Gordon, there's a woman next to me holding a baby who hasn't made a sound in 2 hours. I can hear the street through the walls. Something is walking past the building right now. It's...
Piper Valentine's signal has gone dark. That was her last transmission. At 1 p.m. Eastern Time today, 7 hours after the first confirmed exchange of fire, all military radio traffic across the North American theater stopped simultaneously. I want to say that again because I need you to understand what it means. All military radio traffic stopped at the same time. Not one base at a time. Not one unit going quiet and then another. All of it at once. The silence was instant. I've received no further wire reports since that hour. No statements from the Pentagon or the White House or any surviving government authority. The last transmission I logged was a set of coordinates from a Marine unit in Virginia. I wrote them down. I don't know what to do with them. I don't know what comes next. I don't know if there's a government that is still functioning tonight. I don't know if any military force on this planet is still in the field. I have no wire reports. I have no correspondence. What I know is that this broadcast is still on the air because nobody's told me to stop and the power hasn't gone out. I'll stay on the air until I can't. I'm Gordon Vance.
This is not a test. The following is an official emergency alert issued by the Federal Emergency Management Agency in coordination with the Department of Defense. This alert is valid for all 50 states, all United States territories, and all civilian populations within the borders of the United States of America. A national defense emergency has been declared. Non-terrestrial hostile forces are currently present within the airspace and ground territory of the United States and multiple allied nations. All active military operations are under the direction of surviving Federal Command Authority. All civilians are directed to remain indoors within the nearest available structure. Do not leave residential or commercial buildings for any reason. Do not approach windows or exterior doors during atmospheric or ground-level disturbance activity. Do not attempt to relocate by vehicle or on foot. Contact with non-terrestrial entities of any kind is to be avoided. Do not approach. Do not attempt communication. Do not attempt containment or engagement. Contact with non-terrestrial entities is to be avoided at all times. The unauthorized assembly of armed civilian groups is prohibited under Emergency Executive Order 7714. All civilian firearms are to remain secured within the home. Unauthorized armed movement outside of residential structures may result in detention by military or federal law enforcement personnel. Emergency food and water distribution points will be announced on local emergency frequencies when conditions permit. No distribution schedule is available at this time. Civilians are advised to conserve all available food, water, and medical supplies until further notice. This advisory has no scheduled expiration. Updates will be issued when new information becomes available from Federal Emergency Command. Repeat, all civilians are directed to remain indoors. Do not leave residential structures. Do not approach non-terrestrial entities. Do not assemble armed groups. Await further instruction. This has been an official alert from the Federal Emergency Management Agency. This message will repeat.
I'm Gordon Vance. This studio is running on generator power. The grid went down in this part of the city sometime yesterday afternoon and has not come back. The broadcast signal tonight is a patchwork of whatever frequencies our remaining equipment can hold. I do not know how far this reaches. I do not know how many of you are receiving it. If you can hear me, what I'm about to report is confirmed through multiple sources. 48 hours after the end of organized military resistance worldwide, a man named Dr. Wallace Breen has established communications with the invading force. He has presented, on behalf of the entire human race, an unconditional surrender. I need to tell you who this man is. Wallace Breen was the administrator of the Black Mesa Research Facility in New Mexico. He was the senior authority who oversaw the experiment that caused the dimensional breach. He ran the facility. He signed the orders. He authorized the test conditions that every independent physicist we've spoken to on this program has identified as reckless. The man whose institution tore a hole between dimensions is now the man who has negotiated the terms of our capitulation to what came through it. Somehow, Dr. Breen survived the destruction of the Black Mesa complex, which we now know was leveled by a nuclear detonation in its final hours. Somehow, he established a line of communication with these entities that no government or military on Earth was able to achieve. And the United Nations, or what is left of its surviving membership, has granted him the authority to speak for the species. The authorization language reads, "By any means necessary." I want you to hear those words, "by any means necessary." We are joined now by Adam Denton, the last remaining government communications official who is still in contact with this broadcast. Adam Denton first appeared on this program on the morning of the Black Mesa event, when he read a prepared statement describing it as a contained industrial accident. That was 2 weeks ago. Adam, what are the terms?
The terms, as communicated to surviving government authorities, are as follows. First, all military resistance by any nation on Earth is to cease immediately and permanently. Any armed force that continues to engage the invading authority will be eliminated without further negotiation. Second, all human populations are to submit to administrative oversight by the invading authority. This includes compliance with population relocation directives to designated urban centers. Third, the invading authority will assume control of all planetary resources, including water, mineral deposits, and atmospheric composition. Fourth, certain biological management measures will be implemented across the global population. The nature of these measures has not been specified in the documents I've received. The phrase used is atmospheric biotic stabilization. Dr. Breen's office describes it as a public health measure for population stability.
Adam, I want to go back to the third item. Control of all planetary resources, including water. What does that mean in practice?
The documents reference large-scale resource extraction operations to begin immediately upon acceptance of terms. Coastal infrastructure will be modified for, the language says, resource optimization. There are references to ocean levels that I don't. I'm reading what I have, Gordon. It suggests the oceans will be affected.
The oceans. And the population stability measure, this atmospheric biotic stabilization. Has anyone in the surviving government asked what that phrase means?
Questions were submitted through Dr. Breen's office. Clarification was not provided. What I was told is that the measures would be implemented regardless of whether the terms were formally accepted. The terms are not a negotiation, Gordon. They are a notification. Acceptance changes the speed of implementation. It does not change the outcome.
Adam Danton, the same man who told us on the day of the Black Mesa Incident that everything was under control. The same voice, reading very different words tonight. To those of you still listening, the war lasted 7 hours. The surrender was negotiated by the man whose facility started the disaster. The terms include forced relocation, resource seizure, and something called biological management that nobody in any surviving government has been allowed to define. Every country on Earth has been told to accept these terms or face extinction. I'm Gordon Vance. I don't know what to tell you next.
Attention, attention, all citizens. By order of the Interim Administrator of Earth, the following directives are now in effect for all designated compliance zones. All citizens are required to report to the nearest processing center within 48 hours. Bring 1 bag per person. Do not exceed 20 pounds. Personal electronics, communication devices, and recording equipment are prohibited. These items will be collected at intake. All civilian firearms, edged weapons, and incendiary materials must be surrendered at designated collection points prior to processing. Possession of prohibited items after the compliance deadline will be classified as a civil infraction and referred to the Overwatch Adjudication Office. A curfew is in effect between the hours of 2100 and 0600. Movement outside designated housing blocks during curfew hours is prohibited. Civil protection teams are authorized to detain any citizen found outside their assigned block during restricted hours. Cooperation ensures allocation. Report to your nearest processing center. This message will repeat.
This is Johnny Wells. I've been sitting in front of this microphone for about 2 hours trying to figure out how to start this. Last time I was on the air, I had documents and I had fury. and I had the satisfaction of being the guy who called it first. I told you about Black Mesa. I told you about the HECU kill directive. I told you about aperture science and the funding race. I don't have satisfaction tonight. I have a name and a paper trail, and I wish to God I'd been dead wrong about all of it. Wallace Breen. I told you on my first show that somebody ran Black Mesa, that somebody authorized an experiment they knew was dangerous, that somebody ignored the safety filings. Now you have the name. Breen ran the facility for over a decade. Every contract, every budget line, every test authorization routed through his office. Here's what I've pieced together from procurement records that leaked onto backup servers before the grid went down. The experiment that caused the breach used a specific crystal sample. It has a designation in the facility's inventory system, GG3883. That sample was not mined from any geological source on record. It has no origin paperwork, no extraction site, no chain of custody. It was delivered to the facility from an external source that does not appear in any procurement database I've been able to access. Somebody brought that crystal to Black Mesa. Somebody walked it through the front door and handed it directly to the anomalous materials lab. And Breen authorized it for testing on equipment that was already running 15 points past its rated safety ceiling. He knew the thresholds, he knew the complaints had been filed, and he pushed the test anyway because the DOD wanted results and aperture science was getting closer. Now here's the part I can't prove, and I'm going to say it anyway because nothing matters anymore and the truth might as well be on the air. There are references in 2 of the leaked documents to an outside observer, no name, no title, no agency, just a man in a suit who appeared at the facility on multiple occasions and who was seen delivering materials directly to the anomalous materials lab. Personnel at the facility called him the G-Man. That's not a code name assigned by any agency. That's what the staff called him because nobody knew his name, nobody knew his clearance level, and nobody knew who sent him. He walked through security checkpoints without badges, he appeared in restricted areas without authorization, and he delivered the crystal, GG3883, the crystal that Breen authorized for testing, the crystal that tore the barrier open. If that crystal was selected for its properties, if it was chosen because it would amplify the cascade, then the breach was not an accident, it was delivered. The portal storms were not a side effect, they were a signal. And the things that just conquered our planet in 7 hours heard that signal and came. Breen knew. I don't know how much he knew or when he knew it, but a man doesn't survive the nuclear destruction of his own facility and then show up 2 weeks later as the only human being on Earth who can talk to the conquerors unless he was in on something from the beginning. He didn't save us. He sold us. He traded 7 billion people for a seat at the table with whatever is running those things in the sky. And now he's the face of the surrender. The man who built the bomb is selling the survivors the instructions for living in the crater. Here's what you do with this information. You don't comply with the relocation. Not until you know what biological management means. Not until somebody tells you what atmospheric biotic stabilization does to a human body. You stay off the main roads. You find people you trust and you hold your ground. If they can't explain what they're going to do to you, you don't walk into their facility and let them do it. The question I've been sitting here asking myself for 2 hours is this. If Breen knew what the crystal would do, and he knew the safety limits, and he pushed the test anyway, was any of this ever really an accident?
Attention. Attention, all residents of compliance zones 1 through 19. The following enforcement update has been issued by the Overwatch Civil Protection Division. Citizens who have failed to report for processing by the designated deadline have been reclassified as non-compliant. Non-compliant individuals located within zone boundaries will be processed involuntarily. Non-compliant individuals located outside zone boundaries have been designated anti-citizen and are subject to immediate detention. Civil protection teams have been deployed to all sectors. Officers are authorized to conduct random identity verification at any time. Present your citizen card when requested. Failure to produce a valid citizen card will result in detention pending identity confirmation. Interzone travel is now restricted to authorized personnel only. Travel permits may be requested at your sector civil protection station. Processing time for travel permits is 7 to 14 days. Unauthorized interzone movement will result in permanent revocation of travel privileges. Citizens are reminded that compliance is a condition of allocation. Non-compliant individuals forfeit housing, ration eligibility, and medical access. Compliance is not optional. This message will repeat.
Good evening. I'm Andrew DeWitt. This broadcast is produced under Administrative License Number 472, issued by the Office of the Interim Administrator of Earth. All content has been reviewed and approved prior to transmission. Before we begin tonight's report, I want to take a moment to thank the Administrator's Office for the opportunity to serve in this role. A free and orderly press is essential to the stability of any society, and the Interim Administration's commitment to licensed public communication reflects a respect for that principle. We are grateful for their trust. Our lead story tonight. The human processing city designated City 17 has been declared fully operational by the Office of the Interim Administrator. City 17, constructed around what was formerly an Eastern European metropolitan center, now serves as the global administrative capital for all resettlement operations. The Citadel, a structure of remarkable scale at the center of the city, houses the offices of Dr. Wallace Breen and serves as the primary coordination point between our benefactors and the human population. The Global Resettlement Initiative continues to exceed projections. The Administrator's Office reports that compliance zone populations now represent over 60% of the surviving global population. This is ahead of the original timeline. The remaining populations are described as in transit or pending processing, and the Administrator encourages those who have not yet reported to their assigned zone to do so at the earliest opportunity. Resources are available. Housing has been allocated. The transition is designed to be as smooth as possible.
Civil protection units designated as Overwatch have been deployed throughout all compliance zones. These units are providing peacekeeping and public safety services on behalf of the Interim Administration. Residents are reminded that travel between zones requires authorization from local Overwatch Command and that all interzone communication is monitored for security purposes. The Administrator's Office describes these measures as standard public safety practice during a transitional period.
In development news, the Coastal Modification Program has entered its second month. Satellite imagery provided through approved channels confirms significant water recession along all major coastlines. Harbors that were operational 6 weeks ago are now dry. Coastal infrastructure is being repurposed under the direction of our benefactors. The Administrator describes this as a resource optimization effort for long-term planetary management and has assured the public that further details will be shared as they become available. We're joined tonight by Dr. Yennefer Marigold, who holds a research position under administrative authorization. Dr. Marigold has been asked to brief the public on a new public health initiative announced by the Administrator's Office. Dr. Marigold?
Thank you, Andrew. The Administrator's Office has deployed what they're calling an atmospheric biotic management field across all compliance zones. The field operates at a frequency that interacts with human biology at the cellular level. Its stated purpose, as described in the documentation I've been given access to under my research authorization, is population stabilization.
And can you explain what that means for our viewers in practical terms?
The field prevents certain protein chains from forming in human reproductive biology. It targets the cellular processes involved in gamete production and embryonic development. The effect is that human reproduction within the compliance zones is not currently possible. The field suppresses the biological processes required for conception at every stage.
So this is a population management tool. Dr. Marigold, the Administrator's Office has described this as a temporary public health measure. Is that consistent with what you've seen in the documentation?
The documentation describes it as temporary. I have not been provided with a timeline for its removal. I have asked. The request was noted.
And we appreciate your transparency, Doctor. I'm sure the Administrator's Office will provide additional guidance on the timeline as the stabilization process moves forward. Dr. Yennefer Marigold, speaking tonight under Administrative Research Authorization. To summarize this evening's approved broadcast, City 17 is fully operational as the global administrative capital, and the resettlement initiative continues ahead of schedule. Civil protection services are active in all zones. The coastal modification program is proceeding as planned. And a new public health initiative has been deployed to support population stabilization during this transitional period. The Administrator's Office reminds all citizens that these measures are temporary and designed to ensure the long-term preservation of the human species. On behalf of the Interim Administration, thank you for your attention and your continued cooperation. This has been an approved broadcast under Administrative License 472. Good night.
Attention. The following public health advisory has been issued by the Office of the Interim Administrator. The atmospheric biotic management field is operating within normal parameters across all compliance zones. Citizens experiencing changes in reproductive health are advised that these effects are temporary and consistent with the stabilization program. Do not seek unauthorized medical consultation. All health inquiries must be submitted through your Sector Civil Protection Liaison. Ration distribution for Sectors 1 through 12 will occur at designated distribution points between 0800 and 1200 hours. Present your citizen card and ration booklet. One allocation per citizen per cycle. Individuals without valid documentation will not receive allocation and may be referred for reprocessing. Citizens are reminded that the collection and storage of food exceeding one ration cycle is a civil infraction. Hoarding undermines equitable distribution and will be treated as an act of non-compliance. Memory replacement therapy is now available at all sector medical stations. Citizens experiencing distress related to pre-compliance events may request voluntary enrollment. Enrollment is currently voluntary. This message will repeat.
Good evening. This is Dr. Wallace Breen, Interim Administrator of Earth, speaking to you from the Citadel in City 17. I want to talk to you tonight plainly, without prepared remarks or administrative language, just one person to another. I know what many of you think of me. I have read the words people write on walls. I have heard the names, and I understand. The man who ran the facility that started all of this is now the man who speaks on behalf of your conquerors. I would be suspicious of that man too. But I need you to consider what the alternative was. 7 hours. That is how long our combined military forces lasted against what came through. Every aircraft carrier, every armored division, every missile battery on every continent. 7 hours, and then silence. Not retreat, silence. I was there when the last transmission stopped. I heard what nothing sounds like when it means everything is gone. What I did in that silence was the only thing left to do. I opened a channel. I spoke to our benefactors. And I made the case that the human species, despite our limitations, was worth preserving. They listened. They did not have to listen. I want you to sit with that for a moment. They could have finished what they started, and instead they stopped. Yes, there are conditions. Conditions feel like chains when you are used to walking freely, and I do not pretend otherwise. The compliance zones are not comfortable. The biological adjustments are not pleasant. I know what those adjustments mean for families. I know the weight of that. I carry it. But you are alive. You are alive because someone picked up that channel and spoke into it when every general and every president had gone quiet. There was no one else in that room. There was no vote, no committee, just the sound of a species about to end and one voice asking it not to. To those of you still outside the compliance zones, I am not going to threaten you. I am going to tell you what I know, which is that the world beyond the zones is not sustainable. The ecology has changed. The coastlines have changed. The atmosphere itself is being restructured for purposes we are only beginning to understand. Our benefactors are building something, and the zones are where they have agreed to let us live while they build it. Come in. That is all I am asking. Come in, and be counted among the living. The adjustments are temporary. Our benefactors have assured me of this personally. When the restructuring is complete, when the new equilibrium has been reached, the conditions will be revisited. I believe them. I have to believe them. Because the only future for this species is one where we cooperate long enough to earn back what we lost. I did not ask for this office. I did not want it. But I am here, and I am asking you to trust that the man who started this conversation is the right man to continue it. There is no one else. There never was. Good night. Be safe. Report to your local compliance center if you have not already done so.
Attention, the following directive has been issued by Overwatch Sector Command. Citizens who report unauthorized activities, including unlicensed communication, possession of prohibited materials, or contact with designated anti-citizens, may be eligible for supplemental ration allocation. Reports should be filed in person at your sector civil protection station. Anonymous reports are not accepted. All informants must present valid citizen identification. Overwatch Stabilization teams will be conducting residential verification sweeps in sectors 4, 7, and 11 beginning at 0500 hours tomorrow. All residents in affected sectors must remain in their assigned housing units until the sweep has been completed. Do not open your door until instructed by civil protection. Do not remove or conceal items prior to inspection. Individuals found harboring anti-citizens, concealing prohibited items, or obstructing Overwatch operations will be detained for processing. Dependents of detained individuals will be reassigned to available housing as capacity permits. The interim administrator reminds all citizens that the current restrictions are temporary measures designed to ensure species preservation during the transition period. Your cooperation is appreciated. Your compliance is required. This message will repeat.
Good evening. I should tell you before I begin tonight that I no longer have a license to deliver this sermon. The administration requires a broadcast permit for any public address, including religious services. I applied. The application was not approved. I'm standing here anyway. The Gospel of John, chapter 11, verse 32. Then when Mary was come where Jesus was, and saw him, she fell down at his feet, saying unto him, Lord, if thou hadst been here, my brother had not died. Most people know the Lazarus story for the miracle, the part where Jesus raises his friend from the dead, the triumph. The stone rolled away and the man walking out of the tomb still wrapped in burial cloth. That's the part that gets preached. That's the part that goes on the bulletin board. I'm not preaching that part tonight. I'm preaching the part before it. The part where Mary falls at the feet of Jesus and says the most honest prayer in all of Scripture. Lord, if you had been here, my brother would not have died. That's not doubt. That's not anger. That's grief talking to God in the only language grief knows. Where were you? Why didn't you stop this? I believed in you and my brother is still dead. Mary doesn't ask for a miracle. She just tells God what happened while he was gone. I know some of you are praying that prayer right now. You haven't said it out loud because it feels like a failure to say it. But it's in there. Lord, if you had been here, if you had been paying attention, if you had stopped the people who broke the wall between worlds, if you had kept those things from coming through the sky, if you had done something, anything, before it got this far, I hear that prayer because I'm praying it too. I stand at this pulpit every week and I give you what I can. And what I can give you is getting smaller. The warmth is still here. The faith is still here. But the answers I used to carry have gotten lighter. I feel them getting lighter. And here's what I keep coming back to. In the story, Jesus doesn't answer Mary's question. She says, Lord, if you had been here. And he doesn't explain where he was. He doesn't tell her why he waited. He doesn't give her a reason. What he does is weep. The shortest verse in the Bible, Jesus wept. He doesn't explain. He grieves with her. And then only after the grief comes the miracle. Not before. The miracle doesn't skip the grief. It comes through it. I don't know if a miracle is coming. I'm not going to stand here and promise you one. The world outside this room is run by something that doesn't grieve, doesn't weep, doesn't answer when we ask where it was. But the God of this story does. The God of this story stood at the tomb of his friend and cried before he did anything else. So here's what I'm asking. Stay in the grief a little longer. Don't skip past it. Don't numb it with compliance language or busy hands or pretending things are fine when they're not. Sit with it the way Mary sat at those feet. Tell God exactly what happened and exactly how it feels. And then look at the person sitting next to you and do the same thing for them. Listen to their grief. That's the most honest thing a person can do right now. Let us pray. Lord, we are at the tomb. We don't know if the stone is going to move. We don't know if anything is coming back. We don't know if the miracle is on the other side of this grief or if the grief is all there is. But we're here. We showed up tonight. That is all we have, and it is going to have to be enough. Amen.
This is the approved daily administrative broadcast for all compliance zones under the jurisdiction of the Interim Administrator of Earth. The following information has been reviewed and authorized for public distribution by the Communications Office.
Coastal resource optimization continues on schedule. Tidal markers along the Atlantic seaboard have been adjusted to reflect current water levels. Residents in coastal compliance zones should report any structural flooding to their local civil protection liaison. The administration reminds all citizens that coastal infrastructural modifications are being conducted for the long-term benefit of all species currently administered under the Combine Cooperative Agreement.
Compliance zone expansion in sectors 12 through 19 is proceeding ahead of schedule. Citizens in outlying regions who have not yet reported for voluntary relocation are reminded that transportation services are available at all designated intake points. Citizens who have not relocated by the end of the current quarter may be subject to mandatory processing. The administration encourages prompt and voluntary compliance. Overwatch patrol schedules for the coming week have been posted at all civil protection stations. Residents are reminded that movement between compliance blocks after curfew requires written authorization from the sector commander. Unauthorized movement will result in processing. The administration reports that food distribution efficiency has improved by 12% in sectors 1 through 8 following the implementation of the new ration card system. Citizens are reminded to present their ration card at all distribution points. Lost or damaged cards should be reported to Civil Protection for replacement. Replacement may take up to 14 days. The atmospheric biotic management field continues to operate within normal operational range across all zones. The administration wishes to reassure citizens that the field is a temporary measure designed to promote population stability during the transition period. Citizens with questions regarding the field may submit inquiries through their local civil protection liaison. Response times may vary.
Dr. Breen will address the global population via the Citadel Broadcast Network at 1400 hours tomorrow. All citizens are encouraged to attend designated viewing areas. Attendance is voluntary.
This concludes the approved administrative broadcast for today. The next scheduled broadcast will...
If you can hear this, this is not an approved broadcast. This is not licensed. This is not sanctioned by Dr. Breen or the Overwatch or any authority that claims to speak for us. I don't have a name I'm going to give you. I have a radio in about 60 seconds before they triangulate the signal. Last night in the train yards east of City 17, a group of people ambushed a civil protection patrol. 6 officers on a sweep route they've been running every Tuesday for the last 3 months. The patrol did not complete its route. The people who did this are not soldiers. They're not trained. They're welders and teachers and a woman who used to run a bakery on Elm Street. They had crowbars and a hunting rifle, and they waited in the dark until the patrol walked past. There are people outside the compliance zones who have not been relocated, who have not complied, who do not intend to comply. They are in the hills north of what used to be Denver. They are in the ruins of cities the Overwatch hasn't swept yet. They are in basements and barns and abandoned schools. They are armed with whatever they could find, and they are still here. I'm not a leader. I'm not a soldier. I'm not anybody important. I'm someone who found a transmitter in a bombed-out radio station and spent 2 days figuring out how to make it work. If you're hearing this and you're inside a zone, know that people outside are fighting. If you're hearing this and you're outside, you are not alone. There are more of us than they want you to.
This is the approved daily administrative broadcast for all compliance zones. We apologize for the interruption to the licensed signal. The unauthorized transmission has been identified and suppressed by Overwatch Communications Division. Citizens are reminded that unauthorized broadcasting is a violation of Administrative Ordinance 719 and will result in immediate processing. Any citizen with information regarding the source of unauthorized transmissions is directed to report to their local civil protection liaison.
The next scheduled administrative broadcast will occur at 0800 hours tomorrow morning. Citizens are encouraged to report any unauthorized transmissions to their local civil protection liaison immediately. This has been an approved broadcast under the authority of the Interim Administrator of Earth.
Well, that is more or less how it went. The facility served its purpose. The cascade performed within acceptable parameters. The portal storms did what portal storms do, which is to say, they drew attention. The right attention from the right parties, and the response was prompt, commendably so. The military resistance was 7 hours. My employers had estimated 9. I will note that discrepancy in my report not as a failure but as a refinement of the model. The administrator performed his function. He always had a gift for self-preservation, dressed as sacrifice. He believes he saved his species. That belief is useful, so I have seen no reason to correct it. The voices you heard, the reporters, the soldiers, the man with the radio, the preacher, they did what people do when the world changes around them. They talked. They kept records. They prayed. This is not insignificant. My employers do not value sentiment, but I have found over a long career that it is worth noting. Now, the asset. He has been resting, stored in a place between places, outside the local conditions of time. He doesn't dream. I've checked. That is probably a mercy. My employers have reviewed the situation, and they believe, as do I, that his services are needed again. The resistance forming in those basements and barns, the ones with crowbars and hunting rifles, they are admirable. But admiration does not win engagements. The right man in the wrong place. That is the formula. It has always been the formula, and I have always been very good at... So, time to wake up. I think he's earned that much. And the world, such as it is, could use the disruption. Rise and shine.